Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of AI Insiders with AI Marketers Guild by Marketecture Media. And I am David Berkowitz, your usually friendly host, and we've got a much more friendly guest today, Leo Morhon, a multiple-time colleague, multiple-time collaborator. He was with me from the start. He actually built the first AI Marketers Guild website. And he said he's been with us in prehistoric days, and and Leo has just been like more and more entrepreneurial and always just doing cool stuff beyond these amazing hats he's worn on the agency and brand side, and he can tell you all kinds of things about winning Guinness World Records for cookie brands and crazy stuff. But I think today we'll focus a little bit more on like the AI front and the stuff that like Leo, you're just like able to like ideate and come up with and like put in market so fast, and it's cool. So why don't you share a little bit about who you are anyway, and anything I didn't quite cover yet?
No, of course. I appreciate being on. Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate everyone joining to hear me speak and hopefully have a really fruitful educational conversation that really supports you and your work and everything you're doing. But Berkey, again, thank you for the kind words and for having me. I look at my career kind of in two different ways. Either I am looking for the gold or selling the shovel. So I started in big ad companies from WPP, JWT to 360i at Dentsu. I kind of look at that. I'm like looking for the gold. Like I'm out there hunting, I'm out there digging, I'm out there shuffling, looking through what can I build and do that is amazing and impactful. But then I went into the technology world after that, and all still within the realm of like social media and marketing. So in the MarTech world, and I look at that as like selling the shovel. So I am giving the tools to other marketers so they can go and find the gold. From there, my experience goes into entrepreneurship, to working at big brands. My day job currently is at Hormel, so the makers of Spam, Applegate, Justin's Peanut Butter, things like that. And running all social media influencer marketing stuff. But as Berkey mentioned, I am always building, I'm always learning, I'm always testing. And the last few months, I've shipped faster and built some of the coolest things and most successful things that I've ever have in my whole life. Like I think right now is the best time to be alive for someone who's a creative, for someone who's a builder, or just any marketers. If you're not getting up and getting excited every single day, maybe a little scared, maybe a little bit, but you're really not testing and looking at all the possibilities that are out there.
Well, so yeah, I mean, why don't you dive in? Because like could ask why you're not so scared about AI taking your job, but I feel like we all have our reasons, and some of us might even want AI to take some of our jobs. But like the stuff you are built like what's great with it is like was there even, just taking one step back though, was there like some like aha moment for you where you're like, this is fun now, or I can do things
Yeah.
I couldn't do before now?
Yeah. I remember it very distinctly. It was about my son's about to be 3 years old. And it was right before ChatGPT came out. There was the playground, so you could still play with GPTs and things like that. And I remember going in there and just building like simple calculators or word replacement tools and if this, then that, just for text. And I was profoundly amazed and felt like I discovered gold. The only other time I ever felt that was when I like discovered social media in one way, before it even was called social media. I was just like doing some stuff on MySpace. I'm like, this is going to change the world.
Mhm.
Just back then, I saw the future. I'm like, this could do marketing, this could do coding, this could do essentially anything. I still remember that. And it coincides so well with my son being born. So there's just a lot of like really positivity in my life looking at all this. And then just being able to play with it is incredible.
'Cause he's around the same age as ChatGPT, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's super fun and just like, something that sticks out in my memory. But yeah, I remember working. And then when ChatGPT came out, where you could actually talk to it, that was also like, oh my gosh, like this is incredible. It's going to change and make it a lot more accessible to everybody else, right? Not just like this playground that looks almost not a terminal per se, but like just a little form that you work in.
And and then you mention this like new phase shift or something to that effect happening, you said it several months ago, and like what happened then? Why? What did it for you? Yeah.
I think all these vibe coding platforms, from Cursor to Lovable to Replit to anything else that's out there, I've always built things, but I am not a coder. So when I say I built things, I probably should say more like I've produced things. I've always had a lot
Mhm.
of ideas. I've hired, I've partnered with technical people. I've gone out there and tried to like put scripts together, but it would take so long. It'd be so costly. The resources would take up so much energy and time that
Mm.
things would ultimately fail. Even if I had successful things, I actually had one of the first successful-ish products when it comes to combining ChatGPT with some kind of marketing thing. It was called prompt to product. So what I did was I allowed you to go ahead and get a WordPress setup plugin where you could go ahead and write a prompt, but then turn that prompt into like a feature. So we actually used it for one of your earlier websites, Berkey or David,
Yep.
where we looked at we looked at your job, right, or your resume, and then
Oh
we
yeah.
translated it to be more like marketing. And I had built one that is like put in a recipe and then go ahead and make it gluten free or make it vegan or whatever. And this is just like on the back end, a few forms that you would go ahead and fill out and say, if someone inputs a recipe, make it gluten free. And you could go ahead and actually put it into any WordPress site and basically make it a feature or a tool. It was super successful, but then it would break. I had
Mhm.
to pay someone to fix it. Then they would change the API. I'd have to pay someone to fix it. I want the new features. I'd have to pay someone to fix it. So while I was making money, I was also losing money. But then just about the tail end, when I was like, I can't do this anymore because I'm funding this and just actually losing money,
Yeah.
vibe coding really came to be. You could always vibe code in ChatGPT, right? But
Right.
like vibe coding as kind of like a vertical and a focus came to be. And I'm like, I could just update this now myself. I could just code this anytime something
Uh,
breaks or changes.
yeah, and this, by the way, like one of the things, like, so I've got this developer on Upwork for doing like the kinds of things you're talking about, and and he wrote me the other day. He's like, did the uh did the servers just like change for your site and like my high caliber AI site? And I'm like, oh, I forgot to tell you. I like I'd given it to him to go and then like put on WordPress, like make maybe a little more stable or something. And then I
Yeah.
said to him, yeah, I forgot to tell him. I'm like, I wanted to go and make a bunch of edits myself and like start screwing around with it more. So I took it back to base 44, one of these vibe coding
Yep.
platforms.
Yep.
And now I'm just constantly iterating myself. And like, so even if maybe WordPress can be like more SEO friendly or like some of
Yep.
these other
Yep.
benefits, I'm like, like this to me, like I get to just own this shit. I get to like
Yep.
create microsites all the time and things like that. Like it's fun, you know?
It's so much fun. Yeah. It's totally fun. Maybe
So,
I could
so
show you.
you know what I was just going to say, why don't you share some
Yeah.
examples of
Yeah. Yeah. Let me go
uh
ahead
uh and
and
yeah, here we
request
go.
the. I can maybe vibe code, but do I know how to use Zoom? We'll find
That
out.
that is always one of the biggest tests of your technical acumen here.
Let's see here.
Okay, we got Jingle My Brand.
Yes. One of the most successful things I've ever done, and one of the most fun things I've ever done, and this was built essentially uh, within a weekend. It took a couple of weeks, but just as far as hours go in a
And
weekend. So
and I will just preface this and say that I spent 8 hours in sessions training marketers. I built 250 slides of material, not including live demos and all this other stuff that I built for this massive like training marathon on AI and marketing stuff. And this was their favorite thing. It was like in a way it was like the least important, right? It wasn't like they were
that's
like gonna go
hilarious.
and like put this on TV. And it was everyone's favorite, hands down. So now, Leo, you can explain it.
Yeah, no, of course. All right. So my wife and I always talked about jingles and how amazing jingles were. And it's just so sad that it kind of, after like, I don't know, 1998, it kind of just went away. Or like, it'd be cool if brands brought back to jingle. And in 1 weekend, I just started coding this and develop it. So all you got to do is go to the landing page, jinglemybrand.com, type in your brand name, type in your product information. So I'm just using like a Pug perfume, Pug Cafe, type in all the benefits, choose your style. So you're going to choose 80s, 90s pop rock, 80s new wave, classic jingle, the length. And what's cool right now, you could even just go ahead and generate your lyrics on the fly based on that information. By the way, if you want to use this is completely free right now. I am funding this all with my own money. So anytime you create something, you use it, I am happy to pay for it for you. You don't have to do anything. It's just free for you to use. And then within a second, you go ahead and go ahead and generate music. And I already have one loaded up. I actually loaded up David's here. Here we go. This should work. Ready?
Yes. Yep.
Smart and true, high caliber AI's here for you. From strategy to making it fly, they'll help your business reach the sky. High caliber AI, it's the real deal. With David Berkowitz, you know how good it will feel. He's an author and exec with a brilliant mind. The other David Berkowitz, leave him behind.
That's
high
great.
caliber AI, high caliber AI.
So yeah, anybody on this call could go right now to Jingle My Brand and create a song.
I know Jim and Amy and others are going to be creating jingles all the we've just totally screwed the rest of their day. They're going to be canceling 1 and 2 and 3 o'clock meetings right now.
I love it. So in the back end for you, my back end looks a little bit different, but for you, you'll be able to go ahead, play it. If you share it, it'll extend the song. So
and now you can embed a video version of it, as I just did during a talk yesterday, mind you. So
yeah. So guess what? This is 100% vibe coded.
Wow.
From front end to back end.
And so tell us, get us a little more in the weeds. Like, what platforms did you use for vibe coding?
Of course. So maybe I'll tell you a little bit about my philosophy. First of all, when people talk about this is expensive or that's expensive, it is all really inexpensive, right? So to build this would have taken thousands of dollars. Well, it wouldn't be possible really, but thousands of dollars, and it would have taken like months to build. So because I have a young child, a day job, a startup, all that stuff, I decided to go with something more like Lovable, and I actually built this on Lovable. So one of the reasons I love Lovable, and it might be a little bit more expensive than like a Cursor or even like a Claude Code or something like that, is that it kind of just helps me with all the back end stuff. So when I put my son to sleep, I could come in here and code, and I don't have to worry so much about the backends. So I built this all. But it's not only that. I've looked into other LLMs and APIs that I connect to in order to generate the lyrics, in order to generate the songs themselves. So not everything actually happens within Lovable, but Lovable allows me to go ahead and connect everything. But I would say 98% of it all is built within Lovable.
Yeah, because like the one point where I was getting a little stuck on things, and and I still love Lovable, and we might actually have him present here soon. Is awesome. Is that like there are other things you typically need to connect, like once you start doing things a little more sophisticated, like what you're doing, and so it's just a matter of like do you keep and like it just. And it's usually stuff that like one of the things that's been so helpful for me for all of this stuff is having like a running conversation with ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude and being like, okay, now I'm trying to do this. Like, how can I do this in Lovable? And having that meta layer. Yep. So, yeah.
I do that quite often. I actually prefer to use like something like Cursor.
Okay.
And if it was just up to me, not up to me, it is up to me, but if it was up to my time and resources, I would actually use more Cursor or Claude and like use the terminal interface. I'm more comfortable with code. I'm more comfortable with connecting APIs in the back end, all that kind of good thing. But using both in parallel will save you a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of energy. So I definitely recommend that. Ultimately, though, what I recommend is pick one, try to learn it as best as you possibly can, and just go from there. Again, like Cursor might be cheaper than Lovable, and by quite a bit if you just compare them. But ultimately, again, that website would have cost thousands of dollars just to build. So if I'm spending like even 80% more, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and like Base 44 typically costs a little bit more than Lovable, but it does more
Yep.
stuff inside it. Like Claude Code is only $20 a month, and like Netlify, for instance, for hosting it is only like it is like free, or there's a great $9 a
Yeah.
month plan, but you have to be
Yep.
a little bit more tech savvy to use it and use like a platform like Ghosty.
Yep.
So it's like there are definitely all these kinds of trade-offs. And I actually spent a long time talking to Gemini about like,
Oh, wow.
okay, well, like I'm not really comfortable doing this, but tell me, like, for something like I'm usually dealing with like small B2B sites, like Jingle,
Yeah.
my brand versions of it could go huge. Like it could be like
Yeah.
owned by Hallmark.com. So you might
Yeah.
need hopefully you need to scale it one day,
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole other conversation that like eventually if Jingle My Brand gets so big, I will want to jailbreak it. I don't personally also like that essentially a different corporation or another company is owning my technology or my platform or my IP in a sense. Like basically Lovable, it's behind their gate. I'd like to break it out eventually. So while I am personally comfortable with coding and things like that, I look at it from a resourcing perspective. I don't want to spend time doing that. I just want to build and build quickly. So I'll choose something like Lovable. So I recommend the same for everybody too. But so one thing I'll say too, like, again, I'm connecting to different APIs and things like that. Like just to create the song, that's one different API. To download the video, that's another API. And this is all being connected in the back end. So that's one of the things I love about. The other thing is legitimately a startup. I'm a founder of this company called Social Lollipop, and I have a customer. I am building, I am iterating, and I 100% built it from vibe coding. So I'll show you some of the tools that I have right now. So the first tool is completely free. It just between us, it's all lead gen right now. So it's not the most fancy tool, but I use it as a marketing lead gen thing for people to use for free. If you're in social media, you know that being able to actually see what the safe zones are, where things are being blocked and things is difficult. So I go ahead and build something where you could go in here and just let me find the good. Let's use Mr. Bezos over here. And you can go ahead and select the platform like mobile, desktop, Facebook, and go through the different types of posts. And you'll actually see what the safe zones are, right? Super simple, but this is 100% vibe coded. The other thing that I have here is something called AdBerry, which I absolutely love. So if you come in here, you're going to be able to see what paid media ads are being run by companies. And you'll go ahead and say, like Nike, do a search. I'm showing you this because this is 100% vibe coded by me. I am not a developer. I just have ideas. And I know how to talk sometimes. So you're able to go ahead and do a search, find your ads, like different ads. I love this. Generate reports, all that. So this is just another example of things that you could build, but by also connecting different APIs. So one connects to the Facebook API. Then if I go ahead and generate a report for this, I am generating a report using ChatGPT or Gemini or something like that actually analyzes the text. So I am in there typing out, I want to connect to Facebook. How do I do it? I want to connect to ChatGPT. How do I do it? And iterating and having conversations with, like Berkey said, either I'm doing it within one of these tools or I'm actually doing it on the side on like Claude or ChatGPT. One other thing before I'll let anybody ask, my wife and I have a business called Speech Therapist Tools. So she's a speech language pathologist and we build different tools that help speech language pathologists. And it's another kind of SaaS platform. You come in here, there's a yes/no question generator. There's a chronological age generator. There's a tool that allows you to go ahead and type in your son's or daughter's or kid's favorite toy. Go ahead and type in their age. You start playing, and then it'll give you different developmental goals and different developmental things and ideas that you could use specifically for that specific goal, specific toy, and for your ultimate child's age. This is all 100% vibe coded. So essentially what you've been seeing here are examples of SaaS products. I've built SaaS products. I ultimately think about how can I build a business around what I'm doing.
Do you have any traction on these now? How many users are using this?
Oh, yeah. So Speech Therapist Tools is probably the most popular one. We get thousands of visits a month. But that's because it's based off of a different property that's existed forever. So I'll show you. This is a WordPress site, but it's just a general business. We have a SaaS platform that we've attached to it, but it's really like resources for speech therapist tools. Social Lollipop is more of an enterprise, medium to size business tool. And I basically just found it a few months ago. I have one client and a few free users. I say clients as a people paying. But when it comes to Jingle My Brand, I have over 100 users, and I have probably, I mean, Berkey, you are one of the top users, but I have at least 5 people using it every single day.
Wow.
This is a paid product?
This is free. I am giving it away for free. And even during the holidays, David actually helped me create some of this as far as like the music styles, even created a version for creating Christmas music or Hanukkah music. You should still do this, even obviously the holidays have passed, but I think particularly, I'm not pandering, but David did such a great job of creating the Hanukkah styles that I love every single song that comes out of it.
It is one of my favorite projects I ever worked on. And it's so funny, like as someone who just like grew up with, with like, all these references from the Beastie Boys and Adam Sandler and like folk music, to be able to contribute to this. It is, I think, one of my career highlights.
And for legal purposes, they are in the style of rap,
inspired by, yes. Yes. You're not actually getting new Beastie Boy songs.
No.
So do you have the pro version of Lovable, like $25 a month?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
I pay more than that, but yes.
Why do you pay more?
Yeah. Oh, because I'm using it. I'm using it for all these different platforms. I'm using it for different iterations. So I'm not voluntarily giving them more money. I'm using a lot more credits.
More credits. Okay. That's
Yeah. But like Berkey said, I save money by having conversations in Claude or having conversations in ChatGPT and then like piping it over into Lovable and saying, this is what I want to do. Just to reiterate, I love Lovable, nothing against them, but because I'm a little bit more technical, I prefer to use Cursor or one of Google's tools or Claude Code, but it's just for time and resources for me. I'm happy to open it up and answer any kind of questions, or David, if you have any other questions, but I thought I'd give some like ideas or some tips that I've learned.
I love it. Yeah.
I'm happy to pause.
Let's see. Just other questions on the stuff we've shared so far. I know the URL for Social Lollipop. This is, I want to make sure to put that in the chat.
Thank you.
And it is a funny thing that I noticed with Jingle My Brand that Zach just brought up, that it tends to make longer jingles than you ask for.
Yeah. That is a known, it's not a bug, it's a feature. So I've known about the bug, but no one's complained about it. People have mentioned it to me, but they're like, oh, but I still like it. So I've never changed it, but I could easily change that.
Gene was mentioning there may be more like theme songs than jingles.
Oh, yeah.
What would you call them? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think maybe to make it a jingle, maybe I do have to shorten it and make sure that the time frame works.
Good,
yeah, because I think the jingles are quick.
Yeah, fit in a 50 or 30 second ad, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, so maybe that's what I'll do tonight.
There you go. So
the funny thing is, though, I am sometimes scared to go in something, because if you've vibe coded before, you could update one simple thing and it just breaks everything. So I'm always like, all right, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to update this. And I need to be okay that if everything else breaks. Zach, I saw you come off mute. Nice seeing your face, by the way.
I was going to say, to me, a jingle's like 8 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Like, it's like it's the hook that goes across every thing. That you do.
Yeah. I love it. It's your audio browsing.
This is fun, like, because I'm working on sort of like a retro brand. So like the 80s synth pop is awesome. But it doesn't like it's like a does it let me select the audio, like the voice?
Not the voice right now. Okay. We're recording this, right? Because this is all like super valuable and I love this feedback. So I'm happy to build all these things out.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who, from a recommendation from Berkowitz, has been spending a lot more time than probably needed inside of all the sweet things that Gemini's released recently.
Yeah.
Even though they only have a limited number of voices that they're letting you use.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to like switch between the voices to like kind of get it right. So that's just one recommendation is like, yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
No, I love that. So here, let me, just because we're all marketers, let me give you my thinking behind this. I could have made this a lot more sophisticated, but I would have created a lot more friction. So I am thinking about creating a pro version that I will charge for to be able to recreate the song, remix the song, update the lyrics and things like that. But the reason I made it so simple is because if I had to have you fill out more than this, or more Jingle My Brand, or generate your lyrics, you wouldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
Or very few people would do it.
So
That right now is like, let me get it out there and then iterate.
That's related to like, if I became a pro user, are you able to run like financial projections of how much tokens it uses? Like if I were to become a pro user, right? Like,
yes, on my end.
So are you at this stage with like this specific application able to pencil out like how much money I make or lose you as a pro user?
For sure. I know how much I'm losing every time anybody uses it right now, but I'm comfortable. So I've set aside a bunch of money saying I'm going to have this bucket of money for my own, not personally, it's by my business, but my corporation set out money. I have a little bucket and I know how much people are charging. So once we hit that threshold, I will then revisit and be like, am I going to start charging people or not? But yeah, I need to, and this is the fun thing about you, you run a SaaS and you run a business. Like, how many users do I need to pay myself back to make this profitable? I'm probably going to be losing money on the first 100 users or something. But after I get to 101, then I'm going to start making money and I can continue to grow. So those are all things of what I'm talking about. The funny thing about Jingle My Brand is that I have people like David, my wife, and other people saying like, you need to build this further. You need to build this further. Mm-hmm. But I essentially kind of just built it as a cool little tool. So I'm like, it's definitely not a toy, but I'm like, it's just fun. Everyone's loving it. Everyone's having fun. Everyone calls it magic. I'm like, it's just kind of there. But more conversations like this, I'm like, I need to jump on this more.
And Leo, Zach brings up this other point that still confused the heck out of me. Is like I have no idea how many credits I'm burning through, and then it's like, are any of the platforms really good at that?
No, I would say no, but that's why if you're worried about credits, and I still think again, like this is all inexpensive, but it's $200 could be a lot of money for someone, right? But ultimately it's $200 versus spending thousands of dollars in months to build something, right? So it's all relative. If you were worried about money for whatever reason, I would use something like Firebase or even another one of like Google's tools, and especially Firebase. It may not be the most powerful, it may not be the best, but it connects to a lot of Google's products on the back end. So things are easier and sometimes cheaper. If you are a little bit more comfortable, use something like Cursor. I used to pay like $25 a month for Cursor, and I never hit my limit.
My question wasn't about like, I think my question was like to David, is like, is it even possible right now with the way they're doing the tokens and the way you consume the credits to actually run like a financial model?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Yeah.
That's more what my question is like, because like I got a buddy who runs a company here and it's scaled and they put in a bunch of AI agents to like help them automate stuff, and it's like they have no capability of like modeling out their like input for what that translates on a monthly basis to their credits, and then the credits change. So I was just curious, like on the small end, if it's even possible.
David, you want me to go? Or
Go, why don't you go for it?
I think just like anything else, it's a calculated risk. There's always going to be, unless you're fully verticalized, it's a danger that you're going to have to pay for, right? Like if I build widgets and they're plastic widgets, where am I sourcing my plastic from? Are there going to be taxes, or there's going to be that? So I think it's always a bit of a calculated risk, but ultimately a lot of this, because there's so much competition and the technology is moving so quickly, it is relatively inexpensive. So I'm sharing this as like between us, I know it's being recorded, but us friends, like if I just charge everybody here $20 a month, I'd be making money. It costs me so little to generate a song and generate a video that I'd be making money right off the bat. And it could change tomorrow, right? But then just like anybody else, that's how you plan. I want to diversify. I want to have different tools. If it came to the place where I'm so worried about these tools, I could see about hosting my own LLM somewhere and self-hosted, which has its own other costs and stuff. But if the business grows, maybe that's something I could do with, Amazon or Microsoft or something like that.
It's an interesting time in the market because it is so competitive. At some point that the freebies are going to go away. And so
yeah,
are some of these things that people are building with vibe coding that are set aside as fun projects, are they, if they did go to scale, is it something that's sustainable? It's just a conversation I've had recently in the last couple of weeks with several people.
I love this conversation. I think it's we could talk for hours on it. The one thing I'll say, the soundbite of it all is there's a big problem with digital sovereignty across the board. Look at Facebook. I come from the social media world where they built this garden and they told everyone they could come build and get millions of followers on their page and you post for free and it's all great. And then one day they're like, nope, we're going to build a gate and a wall and it's not organic anymore. It's paid. And now you're like, oh, but we need first party data. And everyone's like, oh, I need a website now. And there was a trend when people were like, I don't forget about a website. Don't build websites, right? So we live in this world where that is a continuous risk and something that we all need to think about as users and business people ultimately. But it's digital sovereignty. How does it exist? Does it exist with these big players? But I'll shut up now because I could talk about this forever, right?
You're the guest, so you don't have to shut up that either.
No. But I want to focus on the vibe coding thing, especially if anybody has any questions. But I'm happy to jump into some tools or thoughts or frameworks that I wanted to share.
Yeah, share away. Right.
Awesome. So I think first and foremost, plan as much as you possibly can. So I actually use Whisper. Now I barely type. I just hit a button and I talk directly into these tools. And I open up a notepad and I just talk. I'm like, I have an idea to build this tool and the tool should do this. And I want to go ahead and have this as the goal. And these are the type of audiences and these are the type of users. And I try to talk and iterate as much as possible in a chat GPT or one of the more conversational tools before I even put it into a Lovable. So when I'm feeding it into Lovable, I'm going in as planned and as thoughtful as I possibly can. If this is your first time building anything, I would say start ridiculously small. Build a calculator, build a simple tool that you need help with, or maybe you don't even need help with, literally an engagement calculator. Build something like that. And the reason for that is I want you to build confidence. I want you to build the magic first before you're I'm going to try to build the best SaaS in the world, or I'm going to replicate TikTok or something. It's going to break. You're going to fail and you're going to be left feeling demoralized, saying this doesn't work. I don't like this. So start very small, build something ridiculously tiny and super simple, and then build from there so you can see the magic and gain the confidence. The other thing is I'm very big on building the back end. So when I say that is reporting. So for instance, Whisperflow, I use that all day long. I paid for it. I used the trial for 2 days, then I just paid for it. I'm like, take my money, please. But build the back end. So I have a backend admin section for all my tools. I know who's logging in, when they're logging in, when they sign the agreement, the toolings that they're creating, things like that. I even make copies of certain things on the back end, not necessarily for Jingle My Brand, but I'm talking about across the whole website. So even when you use an email, it's collected in the back end and I could go ahead and export it, right? So think about that. The other thing, and this is going to be such a huge money and time saver, build tools for your tools. So for instance, I constantly build out, if I'm building this, let's say, I'll give you the example. For the Hanukkah one, see all the different styles? I don't constantly prompt Lovable or anything to actually update the different styles. I built a tool in the backend just for admins that says, allow me to go ahead and build out prompts, allow me to build out styles, and let me go ahead and build out timeframes and things like that. So therefore, all I got to do is just log into my website, go to my admin section, and constantly add different styles. And it's 100% for free versus going in there and being like, oh, update this, now change that. And one thing I hate about that is that I actually lose control if I'm just prompting. I don't know what it's building. I don't know what the prompts are. I don't know how the API connection looks. I don't know how many people are using it. So I'm constantly building tools for my tools, and it saves me a ton of credits and a ton of money. The other thing I want to say is go ahead and when it comes to marketing and SEO, and I'm talking about SaaS platforms more than if you're just building like a landing page or some small marketing project. What I like to do is if you look at Social Lollipop, sociallollipop.com actually runs off of WordPress. So I'm able to control the website, the way it looks, build the blog, all that without using credits or anything. But if you go on ahead and you start using the tools, then you go to app.sociallollipop, and that's when you're like in the back end for like the vibe coding thing, because using WordPress or something else has better SEO. Right now, most of these tools suck at SEO. You could always build tools in the backend, and I have, like for Jingle My Brand, I'm like, allow me to have a tool on the backend that's for SEO, updating metadata and update. But I find that it's just easier and better to build something in the front end and have the back end kind of be built by the tools. Has anybody built anything? Or is anybody currently building anything?
Leo, thank you so much for some of your tips. My question is, I've heard about the vibe coding and I speak every day with my custom GTP bots on my AI team, but getting started with vibe coding, I'm like, where do I even start? Like literally just like, I get AI, but I'm like, vibe coding, where do I even start in the beginning?
Yeah, I would tell you this, go to lovable.com, go to any one of these tools like Replit or Base or Firebase. We could drop in the links in here. And it's super simple. Let me go ahead and show you this again. So here's Lovable. Literally, it just says, start telling me about the tool you want to build. Say, again, start small. Say, I want to build a calculator that measures engagement. I put in the interactions, I put the impressions, I put in the reach, and give me the answer. Hit go, and you're going to just see the magic. You're going to have a tool that you could use. And especially if you start small, you're going to see something be built.
Awesome. I've always wanted to build a slot machine for career prospects. Like, this is the industry, this is the company, this is the role. Do a slot machine and see what comes up based on my skill set.
Having spent enough time in these tools, I bet you can build that within the hour.
Sweet. Challenge accepted.
Yeah. Go. If you need any help, reach out to me. I'm happy to talk.
I want to see it, Earl.
All right.
Please.
Gauntlet thrown. I see you, David.
And Amy had a question about, curious if you know, Leo, the best tool to create a digital marketplace trend space where it constantly updates and creates charts to bring the insights to life. Can anything do that you know?
Yes. Yeah. So the answer is all of them could do it. The hardest part for you, and I could help you with this, I'm happy to go in deeper, but there's not enough time here to do it here, but is then connecting to the APIs, right? So making sure that you have the connections to, let's say, like TikTok Trends API, the YouTube Shorts Trends API, and things like that. So the front end is going to be pretty easy to build, and this is easy too. I'm talking about, degrees, but you build a front end with the marketplace. That's going to be like a Lovable or Replit, and then you need to find the API connections, get your API tools, get your app set up, and then make sure that you collect all that information and feed it into the Lovable or Claude or whatever, and you're going to be able to build that 100%. There are other tools that you could use to like scrape data and have agents go out into the web, but that just gets ridiculously complex. But essentially, any of these tools could do it.
Okay, you're definitely going beyond what I was even imagining. So that's awesome. Maybe I'll reach out to you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, of course, happy to do it.
I'm still learning what vibe coding is as a newbie in this space.
Oh, good.
Well,
I think
and the best thing, like just being able to talk to one of these apps and have it build a site for you, like and this thing, like once you start doing it, it can get so addictive.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, it blows my mind. It really does.
Yes.
So I'm going to keep going.
Like I literally do not give a talk anymore. I was prepping a talk to give that I'm giving tomorrow. Before I worked on the slides, I vibe coded the landing page for it. I was like kind of more excited about the vibe coding than the slides. So
yeah,
but I'm now, it's like totally messing up the order. Like I can't not have that.
You build something. Yeah, I do the same. If I need something at my day-to-day job, and I'm like, oh, this is hard to connect these two data points or mixing this, I'm like, how can I put it into whatever tool they give me to use and build it out? One thing I also want to say with the short amount of time we have, though, Karen, you asked a really good question. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but you asked a really good question. Like, how many people are actually using these things? All right. Like, here's the thing with all these things, and I believe this across all of AI tools. We're in the marketing game. We're in the sales game. This isn't necessarily on the building game. If you go right now, is there a tool that does this? There probably is a tool. All right. There's a tool that builds that? You could probably build it. It's the people that could get in front of clients, get social media traction, get growth. Those are the people that are going to win. Because ultimately, like if you want a tool that looks at social media analytics, I bet you if you go to any one of these directories, you're going to find 50. All right. And we're still in a weird place where like, can't ChatGPT just do this for you, right? If you're building a certain tool like a calculator, can I just go to ChatGPT? One thing I found, and especially when it comes to speech language pathologists, they don't want actually the cold start. Here's a chat, ask it anything. They actually still want a tool. They just want a hammer, right? They don't want the Swiss Army knife that they have to figure out how to open and do that. People still want to go ahead and say, what's the age of this person? And put in the information. I actually learned this the hard way. I had a bunch of tools built and I'm like, I could just create a chatbot that does all this. Just ask it what the age is and have it create a lesson plan. And the user base went like that. I reverted back to these simple little tools and I got my traffic back up.
So for vibe coding, is it only really building web pages or things on web pages, or are there other extensions of it?
Oh, that's super. No, I love this. So Lovable and Replit and Firebase is a little bit more just for like front end, SaaS kind of server side applications, right? But Cursor, Claude Code, and a lot of these other tools, you could build like apps for your Mac, build mobile apps and things like that. Yeah, that does get harder, right? Because then you need to understand how to like install certain backend code stuff, Java on your Mac, and have it connect. And a lot of times you're not seeing what you're building until it deploys. That gets harder, but it's definitely possible. I've built some things on my backends just as a Mac app that I wanted.
Because I mean, you can make web page after web page after web page, but that's not necessarily how consumers are interfacing. I mean, they still are.
Totally.
But there's all the rest of it.
One of the bigger problems that a lot of these tools have right now, but they'll probably fix, in the next few months, like Lovable and some of these other tools, is that you can't actually go ahead and create like an app from it or like a software for your Mac or Windows or something that's kind of like jailed within website. I would love for Jingle My Brand to be an app on your phone. And it can be. There are tools that, do a search. You'll find tools like take your vibe coded app and make it into an Android app. Like you'll find those things, but it's not as easy as you would think.
Cool stuff that folks are sharing and
And Christopher, so what's funny is on like Jingle My Brand, I already connected the payment system and all that, but it's super simple. A lot of times Lovable itself will prompt you and be like, you need to create a Stripe account, and Stripe account needs the code. And then I'm like, wait, where do I connect? I go into the chat. I'm like, where do I get the code for Stripe? And then it gives it to me, and then I put it into Lovable. So yeah, that gets super complex. The other thing I'll say is for like Social Lollipop, I've built the tools you've seen in some of the other things. There's going to be a time when I'm going to hit a wall, or I've hit walls before where I'm like, I want to build this and it's super complex. It doesn't exist out there. I need someone with a technical mind to be able to go in there and actually start coding and connecting things. So you will hit a wall as you start like scaling. Or I waste a lot of time asking questions that someone who knew better would have asked a better question. Christopher, have you built anything, or are you building anything right now?
Oh, yes. Yeah. He's been sharing some cool stuff.
Oh, nice. I'd love to see it.
Yeah. I'll make sure you get the chat too, so you can see any of the links.
Yeah, please.
Because we always have the fun added conversation. Yeah. What other things is people try and understand, or what's on your wish list?
Yeah, see, Christopher, Lovable can get you a prototype, which can help you sell the idea to a technical person, help you get to the finish line. Yeah, that's exactly where I am with like Social Lollipop. Like I have been going to events, startup pitches, and presenting it. And
And this is something where like I also like for those of us who maybe like have clients with their own development teams and things like that where we're not going to like ship a finished product to it. Then uh I've worked with others where I'm like you can get this so much of the way there and tell them like the kinds of things you look for, and instead of you trying to explain like, okay, I want this kind of site and it looks like Airbnb, but for booking restaurants, and it should be this kind of thing, and like, but it should be like a much more like old-fashioned design because these are more old-fashioned restaurants. Like, try and do all this stuff. It's like you just like create something yourself that's like so much more further along than like I could never use Figma or all these tools. I'd spend forever even in Canva trying to make something look right.
Yeah.
And it's like great. And then when they have a designer and developer, all that you can work with, it's like they'll figure out that last mile and make it way, way better than you can imagine.
Yes. Yeah. The other thing I think that there's a pitfall, and we saw this, David, when we were on the SaaS world or even the agency world, like sometimes building stuff yourself could be also dangerous. Things break, things need to be updated and all that. Like unless you have someone dedicated to be looking at all that and changing it, and especially if you're building something that's client facing, if Jingle My Brand is low stakes, but if it broke at 3:00 in the morning, like who's fixing it? Who's updating it? Who's looking to see if it's done right? So if my business is marketing and my business is, I don't know, selling widgets, like I'm focused on the widgets, not necessarily on this one little tool that's a lead gen tool or something. So be careful to build things without properly resourcing it or properly understanding like how much time it's going to take.
Hey, thanks. This is great. I built a couple tools in Replit. The problem that I find is that like I'll build something that has like a limited use case for me, and then I'm just stuck paying like monthly fees on something that like I'm like, oh, maybe I'll use it, on this next thing or whatever. But it's like it's kind of like it's like a trap, I find. And then I've got all these. Now I'm like looking at Claude Code, and I've used Lovable for sure, but I just end up with like all these different apps and like with like one thing or two things that I use for so, like how do you? What are your thoughts on that? Take it around.
So I'm going to give you more of like a bigger picture kind of look at things. I try as a marketer, and money's money. Everyone has different financial situations from a business to a personal perspective. I get it. And I'm not minimizing that or doing anything to ignore that. So there's that, but let's skip it for like a second. I always say, look at how much marketing costs in the 90s. They cost so much money, and you didn't even know how well the targeting was going and where it was going, and the resources it took to build it was like incredible. And now there's social media and there's digital marketing, which is like stupid inexpensive, right? And even as it gets more expensive, it's still really inexpensive. If I took a time machine and I went back to the 90s or 80s and I said, there's a tool that you could use to target almost anybody you want, and it's relatively like inexpensive. You'd be like, here's all my money. Forget about that billboard. Forget about the TV. Take all my money, right? I'm like, this exists, and it's social media. So I kind of look at that in the same world as the question you proposed. So this is costing me $20 a month, $25 a month. You got to ask yourself, are these individual tools that I build actually worth that much? Is the value there for myself? But ultimately, it's so inexpensive. For you to have built that tool, it would cost you thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Or taking you so much time. And if it breaks, it's going to cost you hundreds to fix it. So would I pay $20 a month to have like a simple calculator that saves me 2 hours a day, 2 hours a month? I'd say yes. So you got to look at like, what have you built? What's the value it's providing, which is time, money, efficiency? And is that worth what you're spending? If you look at it from like that calculator, that algorithm, that will answer your question.
But you haven't found, there isn't like a way that you're like, okay, this tool's done, but I can't jailbreak it. We're probably never going to use it again. Like that's where I end up with on a lot of these things,
Yeah, I've run into that. Like ideas I've had, I've built, or like I've hit walls and I can't build it any further. But because I'm building multiple tools and multiple things within the same platform, I say, all right, that one's dead, but I'll use the credits for like, Social Lollipop or Jingle My Brand. So I'm always building something. That's my own unique use case.
And so are you still just maintaining like your subscriptions across like a bunch of these things and figure okay.
Yeah, exactly. But again, I look at it from the frame of like, shoot, like ChatGPT is like a partner that helps me think. Like, even just that's cheaper than a VA. I'm paying $25 a month. Like that's free, you know. Not everyone has $25 a month to spend, but you know what?
It's very easy to end up with like 50 tools that you're paying $30.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
I think that's the challenge that I wrestle with a bit. It's like, oh, I did this cool thing. Am I using it a lot? Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to use it. There's only so many hours in the day. Like they're all fun. It's like you said. I mean, some of it was headache for me building the app in Replit. I tried to do a few apps that just weren't possible. Like it just couldn't. Yeah. I just kept running into API errors and stuff. And I was finally, I'm like, all right, I've spent 25 hours trying to build this thing. Like, how many more hours am I going to spend? You know?
Amen.
But I did build some simpler things that, to your point earlier, like they're like the calculator. Like I built this voice cloner that would take my clients' voices through 11 Labs, since it's a huge pain to go directly through there and do that. Sure. And I was able to do that for this big video series that we did for them, and they weren't able to come back to set. So it was able to recreate that, and that was worth it for sure.
Yeah. No, it's almost like I'm not answering your question, but it's just like, guess my philosophy. I look at it is like, this is just a problem with anything. Like I have a subscription to Wired. I have a subscription to Men's Health. I have a subscription to this. And I'm like, just the other day I went through, I'm like, I don't even read this. I don't have time to read that. Why am I paying for this? But I focus on the ones that are like providing value, but I would love to subscribe and read all these things, right? Like same thing for AI tools. Yeah. So if it's worth it for you, cool. If you could afford it, cool. But if not, get rid of it.
Well, Leo, this is always better than expected, and appreciate you coming in and on the fly and just sharing all this stuff with us. I know you're pushing so in the community, and it's fun to get to see a lot of the V0.1 versions well before they launch. So really honored for that. Thanks everyone for showing up. We got Peter Shackman next week talking about AI and comms, and he's also a really dynamic speaker. You're in for a treat then. This is fun. Great to see everyone, and look forward to seeing what all you create with all these new things you're learning here.
Yeah, please reach out to me. Happy to look in. Thanks for having me on, all the great questions.
Yeah, well, I think you'll be welcome back here, so we know where to find you.
Awesome. Thank you.